society, America has a lot to learn from veterans, and veterans have a lot to learn from civilians. And that was a big thing for me too. There were civilians for me in my journey that did that thing where maybe they weren't. They probably could have been offended or they could have been turned off, but they just like held the space for like 10 seconds longer and then made a little laugh, a little joke. I think a lot of veterans or just anybody that's in a bad way, there might be that person that kind of just hangs in there for you, and like big ups to those people.
Take us back, like, in writing this story, what made you actually want to sit down and put pen to paper and be like, I'm going to share my story with the world?
Yeah, I mean, I have a longer story. We can't keep our water.
Water's dropping.
Carry on.
Um, I have a longer backstory I can tell if we want, but I think just in a nutshell, I spent about 10 to 15 years telling other veterans stories. After I got out of film school and after the military, I was put on a mission by my colonel a long time ago to tell the soldier's story. And so I did that for a long time. I worked for I made a lot of PSAs and mental health campaigns for the VA, but it was always other people's stories. And I was very happy and honored to do that. But it wasn't until COVID that we were all kind of locked away, no escape. And I guess that was the first time I mustered the courage to try to tell my own.
What I love about it is it's really told from the women's point of view, something that we rarely ever see on screen. Talk about taking it from that perspective and how therapeutic that was for you to flip the script.
Yeah, I didn't serve with women while I was in the military. I was a paratrooper in the infantry, and at that time in the military, the combat arms MOSs were only for men. So I just didn't have that experience. And then many years later, I'm out of the military and I'm doing one of these campaigns for the VA. It's called MakeTheConnection.net. I always talk about it because I'm very proud of it. Spent 4 years on it. I traveled the country, every major city, interviewed close to 500 veterans, like for an hour at a time. Very emotional and powerful. And half of those veterans were women. And I was completely blown away by their stories. And they did and do everything that we men do and deal with the things that women deal with. And I just had never seen that portrayed on screen. And so in that moment, and this is before I had even kind of conceptualized making this film, I don't know, a little voice in my head was like, if I get the opportunity to tell my own story, it'll be my story, but it'll be all of our stories. It'll be half mine and half other people's.
So amazing. And this cast, your performances gave me, it's so emotional, so perfect and powerful. Talk about getting the script and what it was like for each of you to read this and be like, wow. Like, Natalie, I'm going to start with you. Let's work down the line.
Well, yeah, I think before I read the script, I read a letter that Kyle wrote, and it was very moving. And he had done some work with Everytown for Gun Safety, which is an organization that I've worked with for a long time. And so that piqued my interest. And then he had said that they were an impact partner on this, as you saw. And he basically just wrote, I think, all of us a letter telling us what he wanted to do with this movie, which was to try and save even just one life by invoking and telling people and showing people that maybe just talking about it might be a good idea. And I felt like that was a really good mission and something that I wanted to be a part of. And I also connected to the fact that it was his story and something that had happened to him and something that he had lived through, and I wanted to help him do that. And then also Ed Harris and Sonequa were attached, and that was really exciting. I'm not dissing Utkarsh, he had not come on yet, but I was very, very happy when I heard that he was going to come on. So
couldn't make his deal, so
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very similar for me. Me, Natalie, and Ed, the three of us had similar, beginnings with Kyle and with this story. He wrote me a letter as well, as Natalie was saying. And he said, this is who I am. I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I was a staff sergeant, Bronze Star. And I remember you saying specifically, I brought a lot of people home I brought everybody home, but then I lost once we got home. I lost people then. And he wanted the story to honor these battle buddies that he lost, and he wanted to save lives, period, point blank. And he said, I think that you, from what I've seen of you, I think that you might be interested in doing that with me. And then it was the letter that I took in first, and I couldn't believe it. I was so blown away by how honest he was, and by his courage, and by the mission. Because he said, I'm anti-Hollywood, and I really wanna do something real here. And I said, so am I. Let's go. And then I read the script, and then I saw the short, and then I saw all the other things that he showed us.
I saw the short before the script because I was like, gotta see if he's good.
Oh yeah,
And he
that's
was
right.
good.
And I think you saw the short before you read the letter.
Probably.
Visual learning.
Can't let him get me with a sappy letter if he's not good.
You're like, look now, I'm not trying to be swayed.
Yeah.
I need to know what's going on.
Yeah.
My letter was I got a letter too, but it was just confusing because first Kyle was like, I got this movie and Morgan Freeman's in it, and I want him to play this character Alex, who falls in love with Sonequa, and I want you to be the counselor at the VA. I want you to play an 87-year-old man. And I was like, how am I gonna do that, Kyle? It's like, we're gonna get
willing.
And I was like, Morgan Freeman and Sonequa, I don't know, Kyle. What if you flip us?
You were right. You were right about
He
that
hadn't
one.
thought of it. And so that's just a message for the people out there to advocate for yourselves. Be brave and make a suggestion, and sometimes it might work out. It worked out for me. I got a letter. I got a very heartfelt letter. I did the same thing. I watched the short first, read the script, and then met Kyle and heard his story. And when you see the conviction in the artistry of this man sitting there, he's very humble, and he won't take his flowers, but we're here to give them to him. He is super collaborative with a story that is so near and dear to his heart. We were all able to add ourselves and our hearts to the story. Alex obviously wasn't written South Asian. He worked with me to bring that to the script. He was really at the forefront of making that genuine. So it was just a pleasure. I hope you guys, enjoy is a strong word. I hope you see the value in this movie, because it really is, it's the best thing I've been a part of and most meaningful. Pitch Perfect was probably the best, but this is definitely the most meaningful, for sure.
Can we give Kyle his flowers too? Because this is actually his feature directorial
You forgot
debut.
the flowers?
So,
Thank you.
what an incredible feature directorial debut. But to that, talk about taking on these characters and the process that you have to go through mentally, and emotionally as actors to play these parts, and also, collaborating with Kyle to make sure that you are playing it, with accuracy, and talk about that for you all.
Well, mine is the simplest. It's just like, I think Alex's superpower, or something that he's learned, is vulnerability, and sort of he is there to support, hopefully, that mirror in merit. And watching Sonequa work, obviously, Natalie is a ghost, right? So I'm used to not seeing ghosts. That's kind of like my job now. But it's we didn't get to actually interact. But to see Sonequa work, and the amount of preparation and focus that you had in this film, really, it's like a career-defining performance. And to be on the other side of it was just a pleasure. You're just trying to get out of the way and support your fellow as much as you can. And I think my character was there to just provide a glimmer of hope. And she did most of the heavy lifting. So I don't even know. I just was watching you shine.
Ooh, Utkarsh.
It's true.
Thank you. I think, like you were saying, you want to bring this character to life with accuracy and with respect, and I wanted to do it with honor and integrity as well, because Merritt is Kyle, right? And from the very beginning, I think I can speak for the both of us. When we embarked on this, we had a lot to learn. Military service is unfamiliar. Neither one of us have served, and we don't know that world very well. I have family members that have served and friends, but I don't know it really. And so he had us watch. Remember the film he had us watch? That was so phenomenal. I watched a bunch of documentaries, and then I really just honed in on him. And so a lot of my preparation was conversation with him. And he gave me a mission briefing that I got to look over. But a lot of it was just surrendering to the pain, surrendering to his pain. But there was I really appreciate you saying that, Utkarsh, because one of the things that, and maybe I'm skipping ahead, but one of the things that we want people to get from this, that Kyle wanted to get from this with his mission of saving lives, is for people to talk about it. Like Natalie was saying, and I love the way Utkarsh brings this joie de vivre, and he just listens, and you can see him doing it. You can see him melting with Merritt, melting to her and giving her space and listening to her. So it wasn't even just the joy that you brought. You also brought that. It's something so sensitive and gentle. And so I really hope that people are encouraged by what he brought to listen as well, because that's the other side of the coin of encouraging veterans and non-veterans who are in pain to talk about it. But I'm so appreciative of you, Kyle, for being so open and gracious and collaborative. And me and Natalie and Ed were executive producers on it, so we were making a lot of decisions, and we were coming up with stuff on the fly, and he was asking us to bring ourselves to it. Female friendship is very different than male friendship. I'm a black woman, he's a white man, she's a Cuban woman. There are these distinct differences, but he allowed us to contribute. And I am so grateful to you, and just kind of in awe for you about that, because this is your story, and so it's profound. And then the last thing I'll say, and then Natalie gonna talk for a long time, is meaning I want her to, is I also, like, the preparation was also connecting with her, just locking eyes with her and locking hearts with her, because she gave me a safe place, and I hope that I gave you a safe place too. I could see. I'm not about to cry.
Yeah.
Not for these people. Don't do it. No.
I mean, what Utkarsh said was right about just getting to work with her, which is I got, like, you guys saw her in that movie. I saw it from here. I got to see it before anybody else, and I got to see it and sometimes I would be like, oh, right, I have to say something now, because I was so enraptured by her talent and her presence and her commitment to it. She was just there, man. She was just there. And the weird thing about this character for me, and the interesting thing, the challenging thing, was that I don't really think of her as a ghost. Sorry, Utkarsh. I think of her. We've been saying this whole sort of like press run. I think of her as like a guilt demon that just kind of follows her around, kind of like if Tyler Durden was a guilt demon, and it's a manifestation of Merritt's guilt. And so, because it's that, obviously there's actual Zoe, right? There's Zoe in Afghanistan, and then there's Zoe for a bit when she gets home from Afghanistan, and that's the real Zoe. And I wanted to make that real and different, and it's someone that you meet kind of after you meet the guilt demon. And I hope that you could see the difference between the two. But the guilt demon version of her is an amalgamation of all of Zoe's, like, physical traits and, like, mannerisms and comedy, and kind of what Merritt remembers and what she's putting together and what comforts her and what she misses. And also, because it's a manifestation of her guilt, it's going to do whatever it needs to do to keep her isolated, to keep her feeling that. So I had to basically go off of however Merritt was feeling in that scene and use a different tactic, whether it was being slightly mean to keep her isolated, or whether it's like, no, come stay with me, this is fun, let's hang out, or like, nobody likes you, what are you doing? it was going to be different every time. So it was an interesting thing to play a non-human with non-human motivations, because it wasn't that's anything I had done before or anything I'd really felt before, And but it was fun, and it was a challenge, and it was a pleasure to be around all of these people.
You provide the buoyancy that the film needs. That's you. That was a heavy weight to carry, and because she's a tactician, she's brilliant.
Thanks. Thank you.
I think it's also really powerful that we have real veterans in our sort of therapy circle, right? They're like
90% of our cast are veterans.
yeah, that always gets me sort of with the credits.
And those stories you saw them say in the group are their real stories.
That's them.
Yeah, we didn't write dialogue. I didn't write dialogue for them, and that was a fun moment because they were all in the short film that I made as a proof of concept on the journey here. And all of those are they're my friends. They're actors first, veterans second, and it was a cool day when I got to call them and be like, "So we're making the feature. You're coming to Portland. We're gonna do it all over again, and you're gonna play opposite another veteran, and his name is Morgan Freeman." And it was great. I threw them all in a 15-pass van. They stayed in the
that was
Holiday
my
Inn
idea.
Express. Yeah.
You deserve co-writing credit on this film.
No, there's a strike.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, to that, what was, the casting veterans? Why was that important for you to have them? Because usually when you're putting a movie together, you go to the guild, but talk about the importance of putting veterans in this film for you.
Yeah, I think in a way I kind of wanted to do a magic trick, and I like magic. I always have. I got some good coin tricks. I wanted that moment where in the end credits, and you're like, wow, those are all real veterans. I wanted audiences to see that these are actors and people first. And so it's like not only their characters, maybe it's a little bit meta, but I actually kind of did this a little bit on purpose tonight. Like this organization, I co-founded it in 2012. It's called Veterans in Media and Entertainment. And we are, we are the organization that's the hub between the veteran community and Hollywood. And I feel like we're capable of a lot more than maybe the tropes that we kind of get put into within, film and television. So yeah, I wanted people to see these are great actors, and I also wanted them to portray not veterans who are these caricatures or these stereotypes. You've got a grad student who's got some self-awareness about him being a Marine. You've got an artist, you've got a teacher, you've got a finance guy that's trying to be a comedian. And yeah, that was important for me for the audience and the world to see them as people that happen to be veterans. And I think that kind of holds for Natalie's character, for Sonequa, and Ed, that this is a film about a friendship and a family, and they happen to be veterans.
And even Morgan Freeman happens to be a veteran.
Happens to be a veteran.
I was talking to you backstage about the cinematography of this film. As the artist and director, editor of Variety, I love, seeing the cinematography because of how you want to tell this journey through Merritt's running. At the beginning, that camera is up close. By the end, when she's free, you've got a wide shot. Talk about working with your cinematographer to tell that journey visually.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to shout out Matt Sakatani Rowe,
Yeah.
our cinematographer. Matt's incredible. He's shooting a Mark Pellington film right now with Lily Gladstone where she plays an Afghanistan veteran. So I think we're onto something. They're following us. And he's actually texting me like, these radios are not right, are they? I'm like, no, they're not. Fix it. He's for me, running was part of my PTSD stuff. Like I would drink a lot and I would run a lot. I was a great student when I came back at USC, wasn't that social, didn't have a lot of friends, and I would just run a lot. And I think sometimes we think about running as this like freeing thing, and I feel great after I run. My parents are triathletes; it's like in our blood. But running can also be like a painful thing.
Punishment.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, depending on what your mental state is, it felt that way. Just when I was running, like I would be out there, running around Glendale or Pasadena or the big open expanse, but it feels like I'm right here, and the memories are right there. And then that moment in the film, and I'm so glad that you guys have all seen the film so we can talk about it, when they finally say goodbye to each other. And Sonequa, we had no idea she was going to do this. You know, she's out there, and then we get real wide with our camera as well, and then she laughs. How great was that? You know, she's so emotional, and our hearts are just ripped out, and then she just laughs, and I feel like that is almost like at the very heart of this film. And then she runs, and now you get to see the big world. You know, and yeah, that was very intentional with me and Matt. Yeah.
What was that like as a director and somebody who lived through that, seeing the laugh that Sonequa did in that moment for you?
I mean, she taught me. They all continue to teach me. Natalie, I think, metaphorically and literally held my hand in the garage. Remember that? You know, this when I was recreating the garage scene, because RJ lived in the garage, his family's garage, so his siblings could stay inside. And that day, that was hard. That was a hard day, and Natalie was there for me. And then I don't know, man. This whole process, people keep asking me, like, was it cathartic making the film? And the answer is yes, but like it's still. And now, oh my God, this movie's about to come out nationwide tomorrow, like tonight. Yeah, it's already out tonight. Yeah. And yeah, it's just like fully not real, you know. And yeah, but it was. I learned a lot, and then also just like we worked very hard on the tagline. If you see our poster, "Grief is a funny thing," you know. And I almost wanted to, because in the military we utilize humor to cope, to get by. I almost wanted to maybe try to like bring some of that into the civilian sector, and let people take from that what they would, and that's what I got from these guys, watching them kind of portray us, and then do it in their way. And society, America has a lot to learn from veterans, and veterans have a lot to learn from civilians. And that was a big thing for me too. And that's why Utkarsh and his character was so crucial. It's like there were civilians for me in my journey that did that thing where maybe they weren't, they probably could have been offended, or they could have been turned off, but they just like held the space for like 10 seconds longer, and then made a little laugh, a little joke. Like I think a lot of veterans, or just anybody that's in a bad way, there might be that person that kind of just hangs in there for you, and like big ups to those people. And so that was a hard thing that he did too.
That was an incredible performance. All right, I have to ask you about Morgan Freeman. What was the pitch to him? How did you get Morgan Freeman on board?
I mean, I already had this stellar cast, seriously, and I mean, we were so close to shooting. I think we were a couple weeks away from filming that scene. Obviously, Morgan was one of the names on the list, and we did start with folks that we knew were veterans. And I wrote a lot of letters, as you've heard up here. And I think the difference in that letter, I started it by saying, "Hey, Airman First Class Freeman, this is Staff Sergeant Hausmann. I got a mission. Do you want to join us?" It was a little bit more like that, and he did. And Morgan was fantastic. He came onto set. It was hot. He came up to every single veteran that we were just talking about, and he just like looked him in the eye, shook their hand, talked a little shit to each of them. That's his vibe. He's jokey.
He's a shit talker.
Yeah, he really is.
I think it made everybody comfortable though. It was like, okay.
Yeah, imagine if he was like really serious. How scary. He's
There was
like,
a couple.
it's like, God. No,
There was a couple of times I wasn't quite sure, and then he wasn't. But it was, yeah. But no, there was moments when Sonequa was doing the walk and talk with him in the park outside the auditorium, and we had to like tuck away and like psych each other out and be like, that is not God. That is not Morgan Freeman. That is just some old like VA counselor who's in your business, and like fuck him, and like and
Like, yeah, I don't care. It's Morgan. Let's go.
And Rihanna is it's very hard to secure a Rihanna song for any movie.
We sang a few different songs in that.
Just in case.
How did you get her to say yes? I mean, tell us that story.
I think so much of this film, and this is an independent film, and you guys heard from Paul and Ray from Legion M and Radiant earlier, but we made this film outside the studio system, outside of a streamer, and so much of this was just grit and grind. And I love being here at Film Independent. I love Film Independent. I have been coming to these things, the director's close up, like I love it. And this is like indie film. So I kind of do this thing where, I don't know, I paint myself into a corner intentionally. And at a certain point, while running, I was trying to conjure what's the perfect song. I knew I wanted music to be huge in the film. Um, and then Umbrella came into my head. I'm like, God damn it. Like, now I love it. How am I going to get rid of that? And so I was like, okay, we're going for it. I talked to everybody about it, and it's hot. It's Santa Clarita. We're in the Humvee. It's like the first thing we're doing for the Army stuff. And, you know, final draft, you have dual dialogue. I had tri-dialogue. So we had 3 different versions. It was Umbrella. It was Brandy's best friend. You guys remember that song? And then there was Golden Girls, like, thank you for being a friend. Yeah. So we had that all ready to go, and I had these little printouts for them, and they were all remembering, and we're doing it. And then, of course, we're falling behind on time. And so at a certain point, it was like executive decision. It's like, okay, sorry, Golden Girls, you're gone. So we recorded all of Umbrella, all of Brandy, and then we moving on. And almost as soon as we were done, I cut that scene together myself, kind of quickly. And then I also put together like a supercut of the whole film because like I was also the Dailies lab, you know, and I put together this 4-minute thing set to this like cool Labyrinth track, who we also have in the film. I'm so happy about. And then thanks to someone who works at Legion M, she knows someone that's close to Rihanna's manager, and wait for it, wrote him a letter. Wrote him a letter and explained, and then there was just a link in the letter, and it's like, here's the scene, you can just see it, you know, and then here's what the film looks like, and kind of the same story. Sent it out, and then I think it was not that long, maybe a couple days, where I get a email back, and her manager said, him directly, co-founder of Rock Nation, no big deal, and he said, we don't give Umbrella to anybody, but we believe in Merit's journey, and so we are going to make a deal for you. And they did. Yeah.
What a story.
Maybe.
Merit's journey, your story, incredible film. I want to say congratulations. Thank you so much for sharing it. Everyone, please go out and tell everyone to watch My Dead Friend Zoe.
Thank you for being
this
here.
weekend.
Thank you.